Yesterday was December 12th, and I had somebody come here to the Chimney Sweep, is the name of the company. Jason and James from the Chimney Sweep in Orangeville came here to sweep out the chimney. And James had a terrible time with this pipe, trying to take it apart to clean it. But so he eventually gave up, and they just cleaned out the stove. Okay, well, right there you can see the pipe is crooked. He hasn't put the pipe back on properly. I came downstairs after meeting. I was away meeting my parents, my sister and my mother for lunch to remember my father, and I came down here, and it looks okay here, but I noticed that this here is a heat shield that we had to have put in order to get the insurance, and there's supposed to be a gap, but as you can see, it's sitting right on the pipe, and these little legs, I don't know if I can make it clear, are not sitting on the pipe at all. They're just there, and the pipe, the shield is sitting right on the pipe, and it's not supposed to be like that. There's supposed to be a gap between the heat shield and the pipe, like there is here, and you can see they're screwed into the pipe there, but there's all kinds of misalignment here. You can see there's that gap there is not right. So nothing's put back together properly. Yeah, that gap there. You can see the gap is all wrong. And another problem is here. You can see here, it looks the way it's supposed to, going into the stove. But then in the back, there's an increasing gap. And at the very back of the stove, it's not even making contact with the stove. The pipe isn't even making contact with the stove. And it definitely wasn't that way before. And the pipe is not straight, it's crooked. So I've left several messages and emails, text messages, phone messages, telling the company that payment will be delayed until this situation is fixed, because Jason and James, Jason, who was working on this pipe, left here with me thinking that now it's safe to have a fire. I was worried about chimney fires. I haven't had a fire. It's hard to tell how to show the crookedness, but there's another shot of how it's not attached to and the collar isn't right either. And he was shaking this pipe, and it's all misaligned. That gap, these gaps were not there before the chimney sweep, Jason and James came. None of this was like this. These gaps weren't there. That wasn't sitting flush on the pipe. There was a gap there, and this heat shield is necessary for our insurance. So I had originally thought that they would just come back. There you can see it's not touching. It's just hanging there, sitting on the pipe. The little legs are supposed to lift it up off the pipe. And the gap there, I don't know if you can tell. Well, there's that's the edge of the door. Yeah, so you can see the straight to the clock there. There's a good, that this pipe is crooked. And it isn't going into the stove. The pipe is not actually connected. It's just there, not in the stove. And they left. They left after yanking the pipe around, and with me thinking that it was okay to have a fire. This is an old Viceroy home. It's completely made out of cedar, and my fear was that it would be dangerous to have a fire in the fireplace and to have it professionally swept before I had any fires. And so they left here with me thinking this is safe to have a fire now, and I think that it is worse than it was, that it is not safe to have a fire in this fireplace with the stove not connecting properly and crooked and not all the gaps where there were no gaps before. So I'm waiting for them to get back to me, and I had thought that they would just come back and put the pipe back properly. But then when Chris saw all of this, my husband, he said, no, that if they didn't do the job properly to begin with, there's no reason to there. I don't know if you can see weird gaps there between the pipe and the collar. The whole thing is just skewed. Because the there, those gaps on both sides, all wrong. And this barely a gap. He's screwed it in up there, but it's all wrong. And it shouldn't be sitting right on the pipe like it is here. There should be a gap. And this heat shield is necessary, had to be installed for us to get our insurance. So my husband says, well, we're going to have to call the people that installed the heat shield to come and make sure that it's all right for our insurance to be valid. So yesterday, I had hoped that my sister and mother could come back here and we could light a fire, because this fireplace was really my father's baby. It was him that made the fires, and he loved this stove so much that we could come back here and have the first fire of the winter and think about my dad. And that couldn't happen because thank goodness I noticed that it was all screwed up, because what if I'd had a fire, me, an old lady alone in this house with 3 elderly cats and 2 little dogs, and there'd been a fire. I can't believe that someone would do that. That someone would, he'd just say that he couldn't do it and that it wasn't right. Anyhow, we haven't paid the bill, thankfully. I sure don't want to pay somebody for breaking the stove. But I don't know about having them back here to fix it. I think Chris is probably right about that. We're going to have to get someone who knows what they're doing in here. But they haven't even gotten back to me at all. My cousin-in-law is an extremely handy sort of person. I think he built a wood stove himself. So I'm going to give my cousin a call and see if he has a chance, if he can come over and just advise me what I should do about getting this done and what the legalities of it all are. What if it is to have that heat shield put on was almost $1,000. I've got the information all about that. So if having them come back to fix this heat shield is going to the bill for having the chimney swept was $220 and change. And if this bill, we may have to take the chimney sweep in Orangeville to court to have them pay for the damages to the chimney or to the stove. Anyhow, it just breaks my heart. And for it to have happened on the day of The 3rd year that my father was gone. Well, I'm pretty heartbroken. Anyway, today is December 13th, the day after all of this happened. And I'm just documenting this in case there are legal actions in the future for breaking the stove and putting me and the animals at risk. Look at that. I can't believe it. That they thought that was okay to just go away and leave it like this. Well, thank goodness I didn't try and start a fire. Thank goodness I noticed. Oh, well. Maybe it's not as bad as I thought. Maybe James will come over and say that even if I had started a fire, maybe it's not as dangerous as I'm thinking, but it sure does look pretty crooked and wrong. And that gap, where it doesn't even connect to the stove, doesn't really. And I read, well, anyhow, that's it for now. I guess I've documented it as best I can. I get some of the gaps here. There's not very much light here, but yeah, you can see great gaping gaps where there weren't before. I don't think that's right up there either. Well, that's the best I can do for now. And I'm just as sorry as can be. Yeah. Here we go.